I know. Okay. All right, so today I'm going to talk a little bit about choosing the best kind of role for you. It can be pretty overwhelming, like when you're starting your new career and developing, just choosing the best kind of company for yourself. And I wanted to cover that a little bit. And just so you guys know, I want you guys to get the most out of this. So if you want to interrupt me, raise your hands, like whatever, just let me know. Okay. A little bit about me. I'm the Chief of Staff at Tailwind. Has anybody heard of Tailwind before? Oh, wow. Okay, good. We were here at the job fair last week or week before, so maybe that's why. We're a startup here in Oklahoma City, and we have about 200,000 users right now, and the most part we're doing visual marketing for bloggers and thought leaders and kind of influencers throughout the web. We're Pinterest and Instagram partners, so we're growing. I'm the Chief of Staff there, and I'm kind of charged with hiring and scaling. So I talk to a lot of candidates all the time. So it's really fun, and I hear a lot of concerns that people have. So I kind of want to talk about that a little bit today. Prior to that, I was in real estate tech for about 16 years at Alamode as the Chief Marketing Officer. Alex McKenzie is the newest addition to the Tailwind family. He has actually been a product and software engineer for over 10 years. And he actually has his own company. I didn't make it up here, but he has a kind of MIS IT company. Okay, this thing is finicky. Mm-hmm. Okay, we'll just keep an eye on it. Okay, so I think that one of the things to really think about is what's going to make you happy in your new role. We all know that kind of happiness isn't just necessarily your salary. There's a lot that goes along with that. So a couple of things to really think about is which team do you think you'll like more, and which team do you think you'll gel with? We spend more time with our work family sometimes than our real family, so it's super important that you find a team that you'll really like. Which culture feels more like your personality? Where are you going to learn more? Do you believe in the company mission? So you want to make sure that you're doing good and that you're doing something that you believe in at the end of the day. Okay, a little bit about company size consideration. On the right here, this is our entire company in one little screen. So a few things. A lot of times you want to think about a big company if you want to get a paycheck and leave at 5 knowing the work is done. Now, these are like generalizations, okay? Not every company that's big or small kind of fits into these, but from what I've talked with candidates over the years, these are kind of some of the things that they kind of question themselves as they kind of go through their search for the perfect company for them. And when I say that you want to leave at 5 o'clock knowing the work is done, sometimes with bigger, more solidified companies, they really tailor their workload to be that 9 to 5 box. So if that's good for you, that's great. Upper tier perks and benefits are important. Things like, fitness facilities, organized workout times, childcare on site, super great, like food programs, all that kind of really awesome benefits that come along with a more mature and bigger company. If those are really good for you, then big company might be something to look at. Sometimes I talk to quite a few developers at my work and then at my friends, and they said one thing that they liked about big company is that sometimes your needs are super clearly defined. So you may only be working on a few projects, but kind of the scope is really clearly defined there, and you really know what's expected of you. And then with that, you can probably go all day and not necessarily talk to a whole lot of people if you're just one that likes to focus on what you're doing. Sometimes a bigger company is a really great way of starting. Another thing is sometimes with larger companies, they have a kind of more structured org chart. So you have kind of more ways to move up in terms of title. So you can start out at kind of a defined level, and then move up to be team lead or senior developer, and then you can move up to be VP, and so it goes. So you have a more structured ladder that you can climb. So that's a good benefit if that's something that you're really interested in at this point in your career. Any questions on that? And then if national company prestige is appealing, so if you want to work for one of the big brands, potentially you want to look at a big company. Okay, so obviously we're a smaller company, so I'm a little bit partial at the moment to the smaller company, but it all just depends on like where you are in your life. Sometimes with the smaller companies, they give you a little bit more freedom to try things, like experiment. And so with that, you know, at our company, we say fail fast and fail often, as long as you're learning. And so that's a really great thing about working in a small company sometimes. And you have a spirit of entrepreneurship ownership. So if you're one and like your long-term goal one day is to own your own company, you might want to start with a smaller company because you're going to see that at the root level. And so like at our company, we involve everybody in every decision we make in terms of where the company is going, our product roadmaps, and how it influences marketing and sales and everything else. So it's a really good primer if you want to go out there and be your own founder one day. And if you want to experience and see higher level concepts in your career, this kind of goes back to like the road mapping and thinking through, you know, how a feature is going to impact the way our customers see it, and really working with like your customer success team and all of these kinds of higher level type things. So it's not just, I'm going to build this and release it. It's like, how does it make the customer feel? How does it impact our bottom line? How does this fit with our overall company goals and our mission? So within a small company, it's really easy for you to get a good feel for all of that. And if you're less focused on title growth and more about learning and growing in your company, maybe a smaller company. So one thing that I hear quite a bit with people that I'm kind of interviewing is they say, well, I'm leaving my own company because there's no room for growth. And so growth can mean a whole lot of things. So what does growth mean to you guys? If you want to raise your hand.
To me, that could be, you know, maybe promoted the company.
Promoted, yeah. So maybe that kind of fits into the bigger company. Do you guys have other ideas about what growth means? Because every time I ask this on candidate calls, it's something different. More responsibility and involvement. So that could be either the bigger company or the smaller. Do you guys have other ideas? So learning is a big one. People want to grow like professionally, and they want to take on new skills. Another thing is personally. So sometimes they want personal growth, and they want a mentor. So all those kind of things fit into growth. Growth isn't just like, I want to move up the chart, or I want to, you know, take on this big project. It's just all sorts of things. And it's something for you to really kind of figure out on your own. And you want to work daily with more roles. So in a smaller company, like in our company, I mean, we all sit in one room. It's like 2,200 square feet. It's kind of cozy. And you work next to your marketers. You work next to the customer success people. You work next to the CEO. You know, our co-founder in New York, he's only a phone call away. So you're always kind of really exposed to everybody within the company without making an effort. So you don't have to set up times to talk to your marketing people or go out of your way to talk to your CEO and things like that. So that's a really great thing about a smaller company. Okay, do you guys have questions about this? Again, big generalizations, but I don't know if a big company or a small company is better than one another. It really depends on what you're looking for. Okay, so one of the biggest things that I'm asked these days, it's been kind of funny because I feel like there's been a shift in what candidates are really looking for. I used to get asked about, like, what am I going to do on a day-to-day basis? Or what is my day going to look like? Or who's my boss going to be? Now it's all about culture. So everybody has, like, this different way of asking about what the culture of the company is like, but it's a huge trend. I think it's a really great one because culture really defines, like, your overall happiness, your day-to-day, and so I wanted to spend a little bit of time about talking about a good culture. Okay, before we get started, like, what do you guys think it would be a good culture for you to work in? What's like what are you looking for in a good culture? No dress code, yeah. Yeah, get behind that. Anything else? Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Flexibility.
What do you mean by flexibility?
You need to work from home some,
Oh, yeah.
you need to go in late to get an appointment or something like that.
Right.
There are places that have. I think some places really focus on, like, you need to be in that desk. And then other places focus more on meeting the goals. So, like, for me, it'd be, like, some place that's more focused on you meeting the goals that they have versus exactly how.
Yeah, that's a good one. And some people are different, right? Some people like that 8 to 5. I know that everybody's going to be there in their desk at the same time, but I'm finding like more and more people want to live their lives and do a lot of great work too. Okay, anything else on good culture? All right. So here are some little telltale signs about how to spot a culture that would be good for you. When you're in your interview process, don't hesitate to ask, what's life like around the office? And so there's lots of different ways that your kind of hiring manager, the person you're talking to, is going to answer that. Some might talk about like when everybody comes in or how they all talk to each other or what the meetings are like. But I feel like that narrative is really important for you to kind of pick up cues as to what that culture is like. Can you tell me about the people I'd be working with? So this one's kind of a good question because you get to hear what they value. So if somebody says, oh, Sally, I really love Sally. She comes in at 8 o'clock in the morning. She gets her job done. She gets out, and she's no maintenance. That's one way of determining a culture. Or somebody could say, you know, I love John because he's learned so much in the past 6 months. He's taken these courses, and he's been really a star in terms of just taking on new stuff. Or somebody could say, you know, William hit all his goals for the month, really great, don't have to worry about him, he's always striving to do better. So I feel like this answer to this question can give you a little bit of sense for what people value in that culture. This is kind of the same thing. Can you tell me someone that you're really proud of on the team? And this kind of blends in with that other one, because if they have this person that they're kind of modeling, then it's going to be things that they look for with you. A lot of times with us, if somebody asked me this question, I wouldn't give them a person that I'm proud of on the team. Just to be honest, I would say I'm proud of the entire team and kind of give reasons why, because we think of it as a collective. How's it decided what I'll be working on? You guys might have some thoughts on this, but the developers that I've worked with in the past, some of the times when they've gotten frustrated, it's because they don't know where their projects are coming from and who decides what they're actually going to be working on. And so I think it's kind of important for you to figure out like how the company defines what the goals are, and ideally you're a part of that process. So ideally it's a situation where, you know, they have meetings, of course, and there's up for debate and things like that. But if it's something where you might question your kind of status, if it's, well, we're going to tell you at the beginning of the week that these are the projects for the week. And that's totally fine, but am I open to ask questions about that is kind of one of the things to look for. Alex, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, that's definitely a big one is what you're working on. Sometimes it can be beneficial if you don't really want to think about all the decisions going behind.
Yeah, that's true.
You just want clear, defined instructions going towards you from the business side. That's great. That's what you want. Because that can reduce a lot of stress maybe when you go home. It's a little more relaxed. Or maybe you're the type of person that really wants to know what you're working on, what it's doing, what its purpose is. You want that answer why. You'll probably want to work for a place that maybe you're more involved in that process, or that process is more transparent to you. But you can understand why.
If you're somebody that gets annoyed with meetings, potentially it might be good if it's like outline to you in a doc or something like that what you're going to be working on. If it's something where you're going to be involved in all the road mapping meetings and things like that, and you don't feel like you add value there, then that's something to consider too. And again, what my point is like there's no right or wrong here. It's so based on your own individual personality, like this HDMI cable. So these are just questions to ask, and I feel like they give you a pretty good insight into what the company is really like. Look at their values and their mission. So a lot of companies publish their mission and their values on their website. And the mission is, for us, it's to make world-class marketing easy for everyone. And that includes like the blogger who's a part-time person who has a full-time job to small businesses and e-commerce. So we have kind of a big mission. And you want to make sure that you believe in what your company is doing. So take a look at their mission, and that kind of determines the culture, and then their values. So we have really good values, inclusion, bravery, and all these kinds of things. So take a look at those too, and there might be a mashup of what you're looking at. And if it's not published, just ask. The thing to keep in mind with hiring managers that I feel like some people don't know is that we're all rooting for you. When you come in, like, we want this to work. We want you to be a really great fit. We want you to be super happy here. So with that, you need to ask as many questions as you can throughout the process. Observe how people interact with each other. So we've had a couple of cases lately where people have come into our office, and it's kind of like everybody gets up from their desk and they welcome them. They say, hey, I'm super happy to meet you, and all that kind of a thing. And then we talk to each other and things like that. And that's great if you're an outgoing personality and you don't mind talking to people. And so it's kind of a self-limiting thing. But overall, I think it's super important, like when you're waiting in the waiting room or when they're taking you on the tour, just watch and see how people interact with one another. Is everybody at their desk and being quiet? And if that's something that you're interested in, that's great. Is everybody up and around? Are people in offices? So I feel like just the casual observations will help you kind of determine that culture as well. Okay, do you guys have questions on this? Or comments, thoughts? Okay. This is a big one. I talked to my recruiting friend recently. She does a lot of hiring here, and she said that this is also the biggest thing that people are talking about right now in terms of candidates. I don't feel like they're leaving. People aren't leaving today because of, bosses or they weren't given the right kind of work. It's mostly around culture, and it's been kind of a really subtle change, and it's one that is super important because you're going to be spending your time there. How to spot a learning culture. So how many of you guys are looking for a place where you're going to learn a little bit more about how to kind of hone your development skills and be like better programmers going forward and things like that? Okay. I'm going to ask Mackenzie to come up here for a second. His name is Alex McKenzie, but our co-founder's name is Alex, so everybody just calls him Mackenzie.
They took my name away from me.
Yeah,
terrible.
Sorry. That's probably a bad culture sign. Yeah.
Yes, no, I'm number 2 so far. Maybe if a better Alex comes forward, I'll be number 3. We'll see. So my name's Alex, or Mackenzie. We're going to talk a little bit about a learning culture, and that's really going to be one thing in mind when you're looking for a company. You don't want to just make sure that it's not just the company looking to see if you're a good fit, right? You're seeing if the company's a good fit for you, right? It's a relationship, right, back and forth. And so one thing is a learning culture with that. And so we've got a few things here. I'm actually going to go bring them all up and kind of walk down through them. So one thing is code exercises, right? So they might have you come in, say, hey, we want you to build this, we want you to create this product, we want you to do something along these lines, and you're going to write some code. One thing is going to be to see what kind of feedback you get on that. Now, depending on the interview, they may not be giving you feedback directly, and it's always perfectly fine to ask after you do something, hey, so I chose to do it this way, here's why. How would you have done it? Is this better? See their answers there. See if they're like, well, no, that's fine, whatever. Or see if they actually give you some insight into what you're doing, because that's going to kind of show that maybe they're a culture that's looking to help you be better, and they're a culture that's looking to give that information out. Another thing too is see if it's a place that's, you know, hiring people kind of newer to coding, new grads, right? See if you can find out what kind of the makeup of their company is. Because if they're willing to hire people who are maybe less experienced, right? They want to be able to bring someone in, they feel comfortable, hey, we can bring you up to speed. That can kind of be indicative of a learning culture as well. All right. Pair programming, very important, I would say, in almost all aspects of programming in general, right? It's always better to work with someone. When you're writing code yourself, you're going to be in the soup, right? And it's sometimes hard to read your own label, and sometimes it's hard to see mistakes that you've written because it makes sense to you. Pair programming is helpful, and a good company with a good learning culture is going to have those pair programming sessions. You're going to have other developers available to you, and you be available to other developers to say, hey, you know, I'm trying to do this way, and I think it's working, but I don't think it's quite efficient, or maybe it doesn't feel quite right, and then getting that back and forth, that's one of probably the best ways that I've ever learned anything and helped grow my career. Code review is another big process, right? So when you write code, what happens then? How does it get moved into the pipeline? Are you part of that process? Is that something where they're going to come back and tell you, like, this is good, this is bad, they're just going to merge it in, or are you going to get valuable feedback, right? I know at the company at Tailwind, right, I really enjoy the PR process. I get to submit my code, and then we have little emojis, little icons for everything from like, hey, here's a formatting change we would like. People will just ask questions. Hey, why'd you do it this way? I'm kind of curious, you know, what this is doing here. They'll say, like, I think that variable name doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand what it is. And it's a very open discussion, so you can actually defend yourself and say, hey, no, actually I like that. Or you can say, well, yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And then even small fries things, we actually have a little small fry symbol that we use to say, hey, not a big deal, this is fine, but this is probably how I would have done it. And so code review, big process that can help you grow as a developer. It's a little vulnerable, but I would say try to get used to that, putting your stuff out there, letting people see it, because it's very helpful for growing, very indicative of learning culture. And then really, what's your interview experience like, right? I think you never really want to be the smartest person at the company, because that usually means that you're not going to learn from something. You want people there that are smarter than you, and that can mean a lot of different ways, right? Maybe you're really good at this, but they're really good at this, right? So during the interview experience, while you're evaluating this company, take a look at who else is there, what they know. Try to strike up conversations with people about, like, hey, if you get the chance to, not every place gives you the chance to, but like, what are you into? What do you know? And maybe you'll see a guy who's like, yeah, I'm really good at this technology, and I'm really good at building this, and you don't know anything about that, and you'd like to. Great. When you started that company, that's someone you can learn from, you know? So look to surround yourself with people who know things that you don't, and look for companies that have those, and that's really going to help you learn at that company and grow. And then, yes, professional development. This is a key one. Now, it's very important to do professional development somewhat on your own time, but also ask the company. You can be direct. How do you guys approach professional development? How do you guys approach training, right? Do you guys pay for trainings? Will you send us to someone? Do I have a budget? If I ask for a training, can I get one? What's this process here, right? And a lot of good companies will have an answer for that if they're encouraging you to learn, right? Because that's a very useful tool. You know, you can ask, like, I'm interested in this new technology, you know, how could this fit in? You know, not every technology works in every place, but will they let you train on that? Will they let you understand it better so you can move forward? That's a big one as well. And then, another one here too that you can ask about is mentorship, right? Some places have explicit mentorship programs that they will have someone whose job it is to kind of help bring you up, someone you can ask questions, maybe a more senior developer. Some places have less of an explicit program, but more of a collaborative approach. At Tailwind, when I first started, what they kept telling me over and over again was, hey, ask these questions and ask them in public. Ask them in our general Slack channel or our engineering Slack channel. Any question you have, put it out there. Maybe that's a question someone else hasn't seen. And they're very, very, very keen on, you know, no stupid questions, bring that out there. And that's part of their mentorship as well. And some places have very specific, here's your mentor. And some places don't have that. But if you're looking for a learning culture, that can be important. Who are you going to learn from? What do they have in place to support that? So, any questions on learning culture? Anything I can give feedback on?
Do you guys, have you experienced like a learning culture that had things that weren't here that were really helpful to you?
Oh, excellent. Yeah, it's really about, and then that's really where it comes down to the culture as a company itself, what they prioritize, what they put forward, and what they value, you know. If they don't value those things, then you're not going to see them really implement too many of these things. But if they value it, you know, these are some of the things you can look for, you know. So.
Sometimes, you know, you might be at a point in your life where you decide that I'm going to work someplace that doesn't necessarily have a learning culture, but I'm going to devote that time on my own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's important. And also, if you get to a point in your career or your life that you just, I want to go in, I want to do some work for someone, get done, go home, because I have a family that I want to spend time with. I'm just worried really about supporting my family and myself. That's perfectly fine. There's no better or worse. We've said this a few times, but it really comes down to what fits you, what fits where you are in your life, what fits your personality, and what you're looking for. So. Yes?
I'm going to say one thing from what, how do you pronounce your name? Ellana was saying earlier is what are they valuing in an employee? If they start talking about, oh, these, you know, so-and-so, Sarah, really loves to learn new technologies and learn new things, and she's implementing some of those here, that's something that can help you see that learning culture here.
Yeah.
Feel for it, and that's something that you can ask when you're, so some of these things you might ask like later on in the process, because first round interview is usually with somebody like me, and so I do a lot of screening, and then I pass it off to the hiring manager. But if you ask like, tell me about great people on your team, I can answer that all day. So some of these you might get in a little bit later, but that's like a really great one to find out.
Okay. Excellent. Well, I'm going to hand it back off to Ellana here. We'll keep going.
Okay, so another thing that hiring managers are totally fine with is if you stalk them. I mean, like, don't call their house and things like that, but you know. Glassdoor is a really good way for you to get information about a company and kind of what their trends are. We're lucky enough to have a really great Glassdoor reviews. And some companies are mixed, but you have to kind of read between the lines and look for people that are going to be in a similar position as you. You can read their blog and About Us page. Like on our About Us page, we have all of our team members, so you can research everybody that works here. And so a lot of other About Us pages have a similar situation, so you can see like their backgrounds. And sometimes it's good to look at leadership, because if you look at leadership and you see that they started from about where you're going and they worked their way up throughout the company and taken on new things and read about their background, it kind of gives you a sense to how people move throughout the company. I like reading the blog because then you are reading kind of from other people within the company, writing in their own voice and writing what's about important to them. Sometimes there's even culture sections of blogs that are pretty important. And it's really impressive too, from a hiring manager standpoint, if you say, hey, I noticed this on your blog and I was really interested about that. Can you tell me more? It just shows that you're taking like care and consideration. LinkedIn profiles of potential coworkers. I was interviewing one of our new developers the other day, and I asked him why it is he chose Tailwind, because he was in New York, and so he was trying to get a job in Bitcoin, and he had a bunch of offers and things like that. And he told me, he said, well, I went to the About Us page, and I researched every single person that I'd be working with on the development team. And every time I came across somebody that I would be meeting with, I researched their LinkedIn profiles and their GitHub profiles. So I got a sense for who I would be learning from, what their backgrounds look like, do they do community service, are they type of people that I can really work with. So don't be hesitant to do that. Company social profiles, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all of their social profiles are kind of important, as well as their YouTube channel. Because there's two things about this. One, you get to see how they talk about the features that you're going to be building. So they kind of get a glimpse into how they talk about technology, what's important to their customers, and things like that. And you'll also just get a good voice for the company. So it can be in either corporate voice or it could be a casual voice, but it kind of gives you a sense as to how they kind of approach things. See what their customers are saying. So it's really good to see if the customers really love the product or if there's kind of areas of concern, because those areas of concern as a development team are things that you're going to be concentrating on. So you can go through their Facebook and see what the comments are on their posts and what the posts are in terms of on their pages. You can also even research if you're going into a niche market. So I came from real estate appraisal. And with that, there's all these groups about real estate appraiser, and they're always talking about us as a company. So you can really see how they thought of us and how they thought of us as a partner for them. So it kind of gets to the stability of the company as well as the things they do and don't like, because you're going to be encountering that when you start working there. Okay, any questions on researching the company? All right, how do benefits and perks measure up? I'll move through this kind of quickly. Like I said, there's far more to the offer than just salary. Out-of-pocket healthcare expenses is super important. Some companies do 100% for the employee and then 50% of all dependents, which is a huge benefit. Other companies do kind of a flat rate, which is good. And again, it depends on your family situation. But it's okay to ask about specifics about healthcare, because it's a huge, huge thing when you're talking about your overall quality of life. Do you have to count days and vacation time? That's kind of what we were talking about before. Do you have to wait a year before you get any vacation time? Do you get X amount of sick days and things like that? It just kind of goes to the overall mentality of the company, and so that's a pretty important thing to ask. Free food. I mean, everybody likes free food. Nobody likes driving for lunch. So it's always, I don't know if I would necessarily ask this like on your first interview. You could just kind of look around the office. This is another thing that you have to be a little bit careful about. You don't want to be on your first screening call and say, hey, can I work from home 5 days a week? But as you progress through your interview process, you can talk to people throughout the office and say, hey, what happens if I have a doctor's appointment and it's just faster for me to work from home than drive 30 minutes in traffic? So that's another kind of benefit and perk that's kind of important. Flexible hours, kind of similar things. So like for me personally, I'm not a morning person. I work from 9:30 to 6-ish, and then sometimes I'll pick it up in the evening, or I have to leave in the middle of the day to pick up one of my 3 kids. So that flexible hours is kind of important to some people. And again, it's something you kind of get a sense of as you progress through the interview process. Here's just a quick example of Tailwind perks. It's in the link at the very end of the presentation. I'm not going to go through all of this, but you know, we do team activities where we fly our New York office in and vice versa, work from home, 401k contribution, health insurance. One thing about health insurance that's pretty important is we cover domestic partners. So if you have a spouse that's live-in or just a domestic partner, you don't have to be married in order to be covered under our insurance plan. And so that's a pretty big kind of benefit. So it's a good thing to ask. Will you be able to build wealth? Look for equity in the company. Some companies will give you equity right up front, which is really great, and it gives you ownership. It kind of changes the dynamic of the company because everybody is super involved. A bonus program and retirement savings. Okay, so I'm going to go pretty quickly through this. Sounds really great. How do I get a job in these people-centered companies? A lot of times, companies who spend a lot of time and investment and all this for people are kind of hard to get into. Like at Tailwind, we don't hire very often in terms of just developers. We just went through a stint where we hired 4 of them. So it can be a little bit before we get them. But what you can do in these types of companies is kind of prep yourself for that time. look for internships. You guys are doing a great job participating in community events and programs. You'll come across all sorts of community leaders, and you have the collective knowledge of each other, so that's a really good idea. Personal projects. Put your code on GitHub and work with other programmers. Alex, do you have anything to add on this one?
Yeah, this one can be scary for some people. You write something, it's not going to be perfect. Nothing you write is ever perfect. And it can be scary to be like, hey, everyone, look at what I did. You know, because you're worried that you're going to attack you or feel bad. But really, it's so beneficial to keep used to doing that. And then even working with other people, you start to get maybe a little less attached to the code that you've written. And so I know when I first started, it started to feel private. Someone says, hey, you could have done that better. I felt like, oh no, I did something wrong. I felt bad about myself. But really, it's people trying to help you, people trying to make something better. And you know, the side note of that is when you make something, like you make the thing, don't really worry about if it's perfect in the beginning. Worry more about getting something out of it, right? Getting something completed. You can make it better later. You know, you can repeat that later. But that's a big portion of it. And it also gives you a nice portfolio. You go in and say, hey, here's stuff I made. And you can say at the time, like, yeah, this one I didn't comment for my phone because I was to use myself. This one is a little bit better, you know. So it's a big part.
Okay, and then the last thing is soft skills. So a lot of times companies will take risks on people that may not have the perfect resume, but they're really great at soft skills. You can tell that they're prideful, good team members, they're not the smartest guy in the room, really personable, they act like they enjoy being there. So developing those soft skills is just as important as developing your overall hard skills. Any questions on that? Okay. All right, that's the end of my presentation. You guys are welcome to stay in touch with both Mackenzie and I. I'm more than happy to help if you have resume questions or interview questions or anything else. Our whole team actually is. So I hope that we talk at some point in the future. And if you want to learn more about Tailwind or see an example of kind of that people-oriented company, hit our careers page. That's it.